Shalom, I am Prophet Yachanan Bridges, Hebrew for Prophet Jonathan Bridges. That name ain't been said in a long time, and welcome to Building Bridges. Well, we not only desire to build people, but to build myself in the things of Yahweh. Well, we're back again in episode 7 of the message titled, I'm Built for This. And this is part 6. And where we left off last time, we were discussing through the scriptures that Yahweh did not give man woman first. So I know y'all said, hey, you said next time we're going to get to part 4. What we waiting on? We want woman. Okay, we going to get to it. Microphone check. 1, 2. I got a new microphone too. Just wanted to throw that in there. I want to give a shout out to all my bricklayers first before we get started to let y'all know I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the comments that you have been putting down below, and thank you for the likes that you've been putting on. And I admonish everybody to stay to the end of the video. It's very important for the analytics that YouTube continues to put this information in forefront so that more people can get access to this type of teaching. Just thank you, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you for all of my bricklayers. All right, well, let's get started. We left off again saying in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, we were covering that Yahweh gave man, not woman, first. According to what we read in the scriptures, we found out 1 was that Yahweh gave him his presence. 2, he gave man work. And 3, he gave him the rules. But before we go into the 4th thing, I want to step off into a small tributary, and I'm going to come right back to the road. Follow me real quick to Genesis chapter 2, verse 19. There's something that I didn't really get to touch on the last time, message that we did. Genesis chapter 2, verse 19, and it reads, out of the ground, Yahweh formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And what I wanted to point out in this scripture was that we found out a little bit before this that Yahweh formed man, which means that he squeezed him into a certain shape. And here we are in this scripture saying that Yahweh formed every beast of the field. So he squeezed them into a certain shape that he desired also, just like he did man. In other words, he designed them for a certain thing, for a certain purpose. But what I wanted to get to here in the scriptures, and I think this is very important to point out to our men that are out there listening, it said that Yahweh brought them onto Adam. He brought every beast of the field and fowl of the air and brought them onto Adam. And according to the scriptures, it said to see what he would call them. So the word call there, and this isn't in my notes, baby. This is just something that I tapped on real quick. The word call there, we find out that it's a Hebrew word that means to address. So Yahweh, when he brought every creature and every fowl of the air to Adam, he wanted to see how he was going to address them. And whatsoever Adam or howsoever Adam addressed every living creature, that was the name thereof. And the word name there is a Hebrew word, which is the word Shem. And Shem, we finds out that it actually means, it deals with the character of something. In the Bible and in the scriptures, we find out every time that somebody named a child, that name carried a meaning. In other words, it carried the character. In other words, the distinctive nature of something. So Yahweh, when he brought everything onto man, he wanted to see how he was going to address them by a distinctive nature. Why are we dealing with this, John? Well, I think it's very important, men, that we understand how are you addressing your woman? How are you speaking to your woman? It's extremely important because the character of something is in his name. And we can look at it like this too. Parents, we have to be careful on how we name our children. A lot of us, we naming our children these names and we have no idea, no earthly idea what these names mean. And we wonder why they behave a certain way. Same thing with men talking to their wives. When you speak to your wife, realize that the name that you give her, that's anything other than a name, what you're doing is you're attaching a character to her. And you're wondering why she's not acting in character, but out of character. And what's interesting to note also is that the word character actually comes from the Greek, and it's a Greek tool. It was a tool that the Greeks used, which was called a character. And a character was a tool. It was a stamping tool. It was an instrument used for engraving something. So I'm saying this to our men, to our parents. Be careful what we name something. Men, be careful what you call your woman, because when you call her something else, what you're doing is you're actually engraving or stamping a distinctive mark of what she is. Parents, be careful, because the name that you're using is attaching a distinctive to mark to what they are. So when Yahweh brought the animals onto man, when he brought a certain creature to him, he said lion. So when he said lion, what he did was he attached the character, all the distinctive marks and everything of a lion. So a lion is going to be a lion. When he brought a goat to him, he said, this is a goat. He named it a goat. So he attached what a goat was to a goat, and it shaped itself to the form of what that name is. This is very important, men, when we call our women anything other than what their name is, out of their name. And you know what I mean? When we cuss them out, we call them stupid, we call them fat, we call them ugly. Come on here. And we saying all of these derogatory names to them. And then we start wondering, why is it that they're starting to behave in a certain way? Is because of these names that we attach to them. That's everything but their name. Are you following me? So it's very important that we understand men, that Yahweh gave man the power to name things. And when we call it by a certain name, we're attaching a character to it. So let's be careful. All right. All right. Well, let's get back to it. So we named the first three things that Yahweh gave man, right? And we found out that Jahim, he was on to something when he said, you better put that woman first. Y'all know I got to sing that. He was on to something, and he was not incorrect. But Ricky Bobby came along and he said, if you ain't first, you're last. So here we are. We're getting to the fourth thing, which is the last thing that Yahweh gave man. And what Yahweh gave man was that he gave him woman. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Come on here. He gave him woman. It's for reason for us to celebrate men that's out there right now. They like, yes, finally, we made it to woman. So that's something to celebrate about there, is because he gave us woman. So let's read. Let's go to Genesis. We're going to still stay in chapter 2, but we're going to drop down to verse 21. And when you got it, say, I got it. I got it. That's my audience in the background. All right. And it reads, and Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed the flesh instead thereof. Look at that right there. So, no, you know what? Let's deal with this scripture by scripture. So Yahweh caused the deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And here, what we're noticing is that he created man, right? But now it's the time to create woman. So Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And I like to say this as a joke. I believe that Yahweh had to put man to sleep. Think about it. If man would have had the opportunity to see Yahweh creating woman, oh man, we would have had a mess. Just think about it. He'd have been like, okay, he put that right there. He put that right there. All right, I got that. Okay. All right, now he gonna be secretly trying to create his own woman later. Making him a duplicate, as my wife said in the background. So Yahweh had to put him to sleep. So Yahweh put him into a deep sleep. And what we find out, it's a Hebrew word that means taught him all. In other words, he knocked him out, or he put him in a trance. So Yahweh had to knock man out so he couldn't see what he was doing, because he was about to create something that was about to be, woo, goodness gracious, awesome. Is that all right? So he caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. Right? Let's move on. Verse 22. And the rib which Yahweh had taken from man, and we still utilizing man here, concerning the individual species. I want to point this out for a reason. He took taken from man, or he took from the species or the group, the one body that contained everybody, and made he a woman and brought her onto Adam. Look at that right there. So it says that this man right here, this man, he had taken her from man, right? So according to the scriptures, man was not taken out of woman, according to what the Apostle Paul said. According to the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 11:8, he said that for the man is not of woman, but the woman of man. So this means that man is the source of woman, right? So if Yahweh took woman out of man, this means that man is actually the source. And what we find out is that the word source is actually the Hebrew word Abba. I'm sure a lot of you done heard this word before. Abba. Abba means father. And Abba, there we find out that Abba not only means father, it means source. So it also means sustainer. So when Yahweh took woman out of man, what he was saying was that the man is going to be the source for the woman. That's why, look, think about this. When you've been together for a long time, and it ain't even got to be a long time. And when you've been together and you're meshed together, that's why after a while, the woman starts naturally calling you daddy. I had to look around the camera there to look at my baby. Think about it, man. You after a while, your woman start calling you daddy, or it might be other forms of it today. You know, if you got you a spicy woman, she might say something like zaddy. Yeah, so think about it. This is why. It's because you are her source. You are the Abba for this situation. You are the one that sustains her. So she naturally calls you daddy. And think about it. After a while, you naturally start calling her your baby. Yeah, I keep sliding behind the camera because I gotta look at my wife. She back there looking like a little tough little soldier. I ain't gonna smile. Yeah. So it naturally happens over time is that she starts calling you daddy and you start calling her baby. So men, with this understanding, we have to be really careful in the fact that you understand that you are the source. So if you're the source, you have to be careful with who you are and how you carry yourself. This is why Yahweh gave you his presence. This is why Yahweh gave you work. This is why Yahweh gave you the rules, because he was building a structure. As my wife said, come on here, we have to inspect our foundation. So if you are the source, you have to understand if there's something wrong with the source, the batch is going to be contaminated. So men, I need you to repeat after me. I won't back down. I'm built for this. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Listen to me, man. Repeat after me. I won't back down. I'm built for this. I am the source. And in this case, I love it when you call me daddy. Are you listening to what I'm saying? So if we're built for this, we have to keep in mind what Yeshua said in the book of Mark 3:25-27. You don't have to go there. He said, if a house be divided against itself, I know you heard this scripture before, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself, he be divided. He cannot stand, but hath an end. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, and then will he spoil his house. So men, this is why it's important for us to be in position. This is why it's important for us to stay connected to Yahweh, having access constantly in prayer, constantly on our knees, constantly going to Yahweh everything, constantly being in his face, getting your structure, because the only way your house can be spoiled is if the enemy come in and bind you up. Are you listening to me, men out there? And as I always say, this is not a message of condemnation, but this is a message to build up our men. And as I said in the beginning, to build up the bricklayers and also to build up myself. And in building myself, I desire that my men become stronger and fortified through this word. Is that all right? So this is what Yahweh is doing. And if you notice, as I said, this is going to be the last instance that Yahweh, the scripture, is going to utilize man, saying that it's a species, because this is the part where he takes this rib out and it says that he made woman. Oh, there it is right there. That right there is heavy all by itself, because as I said before, he only went into the dirt or into the dust one time, and it said that he formed man. So he squeezed him into something. But look here, it says that he made woman. Listen to that right there. When he made her, come on here, he made her. And what we find out is that made is a Hebrew word which means to build. Look at this. Built, set up. Come on here. So he set that thing up right there, boy. Come on here. He gave you a woman and he set that thing up there, boy. Come on here. I mean, when you look at your woman, you got to know that Yahweh made something, that he built something, that she was built. Come on here, just like that song by the Commodores. She's a brick house. She's mighty, mighty. And when she around me, she let everything hang out. Come on here. We going to keep it real. This is not a religious channel here. I love my woman. I love everything that Yahweh made about her. Come on here. Because when he made her, he made her. Are you listening to me? Mic check 1 2 1 2. He made that woman. Come on here. He built her. He set that thing up right there. Are you listening to what I'm saying? So he built her, right? He built a woman and brought her onto the man. Look at that right there. Let's go to verse 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. Look at this. Just like Yahweh did when he brought every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, he brought her on, he brought her on to man, right? And now, just as he did, he wanted to see what he was going to call him. So here he says he called her woman. You see that right there? But let's back up a little bit. It said, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bones, right? Bone there is a Hebrew word that means substance. Oh, that's heavy right there. So Adam said, this is now bone of my bone, or this what you have brought me, Yahweh, it has substance. It is the real physical matter. Look at here. Look at this here. Not something that's inside of me, but it's a real physical matter that consists of something which is tangible. So Yahweh, you done finally brought me something. Listen, men, Yahweh done gave you something that's tangible. We love this word tangible because that means that we can touch it. Oh, you better listen to me. Don't get religious on me right now, because how many of you love to touch your woman, to hug your woman, to kiss your woman? Come on here, to smell your woman. Listen to me. This is something powerful that he brought unto him because it had substance. It was solid. Come on here. It was solid. Are you listening to me? Her very presence was solid. So he said that this is bone of my bone, or that it has substance. So it makes us ask the question, what is a person of substance? A person of substance is someone that adds value to the world. And that's what I like to think about my wife. And men, I hope you thinking the same thing about your women out there, your wives out there, is that they add value not only to you. When they're a person of substance, they add value to the world. My wife is adding value to not only me, but to the world. She adds it with the word, and she also adds it with what she's doing with the food thing right now in Eve's garden. Is something that's going to add substance to the world. It says when there's a person of substance, they create something, whether it is a material item, a thought, or an emotion. They work hard and they accomplish something. They can be thinkers and they can also be doers. And this is what we have to understand, is when Yahweh brought this thing to us, he brought something that had the ability to add value. Had value how? By being thinkers, by being doers, by being hard workers, by being able to accomplish something. So men, understand what it is that Yahweh brought you. He brought you something that was good. According to the scriptures, it said in day one, when he did what he did, he demonstrated, he stepped back and he said it was good. On day two, he stepped back, he said it was good. All the way up to day 6, when he created man, when he had that one body that contained everybody, he said that it was good. So Adam understood that Yahweh gave me something good. It had substance. This thing was solid. Woo! Ain't that something? And he said, she shall be called woman. Look at that. So now he's calling her something. So he's calling her woman. And what does woman mean in the Hebrew? It's the Hebrew word ishah, which means woman. It means female. It means wife. So what Yahweh brought man was something that was wife material. Look at that there. He called her woman because she was the man with the womb. Are you listening to me? So when he saw her, he was like, whoa, man. It was the man with the womb that he brought to her, because she was taken, as the scripture continues to say, out of man. So now look at here. Now the word man is switching in its definition in the scriptures. That's why I said you need to follow along, because at first it was dealing with the species, the one body and everybody. but now it's saying she was taken out of man, which now turns into the Hebrew word Ishman, and woman was Ishal. So Ishman is an individual or male person. So now you see the separation, that the one body that had everybody is now broken up into two separate bodies. Oh yeah, are you seeing what I'm saying? So now we have the Ishal and we have the Ishman. You see that right there? Ain't that heavy? Let's continue on then. So the scripture goes on to say in verse 24, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife. Look at this, the wife, because he called her a woman, which meant wife, and they shall be one flesh. And that's heavy right there. So look at this. So I said in the beginning, in yesterday, not yesterday, but the last message in part 5, because we're in part 6. On the 6th day, he created man. See how this is working out? I said that if you ain't first, you're last. But what this is telling us is that they're back to being one flesh. As the scripture said, he shall cleave unto his wife and they shall be one flesh. So men, understand, when you put Yahweh first, come on here, when he gave you his presence, listen to me. You see how it's working out? He gave you his presence, and then he turned around and gave you work. And then he turned around and gave you the rules, and then he gave you woman. But woman, look, now you're first again. If you ain't first, you're last. But if you're last, you first. Because the scripture says to us, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So look at this. So now we're back to one flesh, meaning that we're still in this one body. So men should be aware of where his woman is at all times, being that we are the source, that we are the Abba, or her sustainer, from which she came from. So in other words, when you're back to being one flesh, if you're one flesh, if I pinch myself, I should feel that pinch. So if we're one flesh and that woman is a part of me, if something pinches her, I should be able to feel her. Now I'm finna use some hood colloquialism. Do you feel me? This is what the woman is saying to us. Do you feel me? Men, listen to me. The woman is saying, do you feel me? We are one flesh. Ain't that heavy right there? So this is what Yahweh was doing, is that he was trying to bring us back to one flesh. He wanted us to be back into one body, to be one mind, one love, one love. Let's get together and feel all right. So that's what Yahweh is doing. He's trying to get us to understand the order and the flow of things. He wants men to really start to understand their place in what it is that Yahweh is doing right now in this realm. Are you with me? If the house is against itself, it is divided. Men, I'm trying to drive something home. My bricklayers, are you listening to me? The house has to be one at all times. When you get married to your wife, you become one. The two become one, right? And I said this and shared this with my cousin on Facebook some time ago. And I shared it with my wife. So the two become one. I had to write it down. So your spouse is you, looking at you, talking about you. This means your spouse is a full-length mirror of who you are. Are you listening to what I'm saying? So when you're listening, or better yet, when you're looking at your woman, you're looking at yourself. So you have to ask yourself, this woman that I'm with, am I willing to be her? I got to pause right there because that statement is heavy. When you get with that woman, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to be her? because everything that she is now connected to you. And when you're willing to be her, then you'll have a better understanding of how to deal with her. Likewise with the women, when you get with this man, are you willing to be him? Do you feel what I'm saying? So there's a connection that has to happen, and we have to start getting together to understand that we are one. Well, y'all know what that bell is that we have come to the end of part 6, episode 7. Men, repeat after me. I won't back down. I'm built for this. And thank you for checking us out, listening to the whole channel, listening to the whole message. Or better yet, hey, go back and listen to the whole channel. Go back and listen to all the messages. And all of my bricklayers, again, I appreciate you for coming with us this far, for following us through this journey. I also would like to ask that you also like, comment, subscribe, and also leave a comment down below. And if this message has blessed you, I pray that you pass it on to somebody else, that it may bless them also. Be the salt of earth. And when they get that message, tell them the same thing. Pass that message on to somebody else and let them be the salt of earth. That's the only thing I ask you to do. And we're going to be back next time and continue this message, because we're going to still stay in this same vein of I'm built for this, because there are some things that Yahweh is about to do in the men to make sure that we are the rocks that our women call us and that we're going to be. Is that all right? Well, glad y'all came out. Shalom. Whew.